Welcome to the Land Your Bets Sports Betting Podcast. We're rolling along with these NBA futures. How convenient is it that it is the Central Division that we are talking about here today? Obviously, KK12, Kareem is here with me. Yeah, right. Like pretty fortunate. We've got the Bucks in this division. They just made a trade for Damian Lillard, and we get to talk about them today. So, how are you doing today, man?
Perfect timing, man. Yeah, yesterday was busy with all the news, and we're excited to hit it today.
Can I ask you, was there like any kind of scramble on the part of a professional bettor when they find out information like this? You've got futures bets already in the works, I imagine, plus some plans that you may have needed to change. What's that look like real briefly?
I mean, whenever you get big news like this, it's always just such chaos because you're trying to really quickly decide in the span of like a minute, like how are you going to action this information? And I found myself, I've been waiting on, we'll talk about this a bit later, but I've been waiting to fade Miami on season longs in hopes that they when they don't get Dame, I was like, okay, I don't see this as a 48 win team. Their win total is still sitting at 48. I thought there was a huge edge there. And so I'm going to click it. And then I look more closely at the trade and it's like, wait, Drew went to Portland and he's not going to stay. So I stopped myself before I hit submit because I'm thinking, if Drew goes to Miami, that's really quick. So a lot of times you can act quickly and get something in, but I found myself I didn't really see how to really get this into action super quick. And we'll talk about that more right here.
I think totally. Yeah. So in short, it's a scramble. Yeah, I would imagine. And the longer answer to everything, even from what you said, is we don't know where Drew Holiday's going, so that impacts things greatly. It's one of the more hilarious aspects of this to me that Miami and Portland were trying to make a trade for Dame Lillard. It didn't work. It probably got a little bit sour because I imagine Pat Riley stood to his guns. So did the Blazers and O'Shea. And then now they got to come back and be like, all right, so what's up on Drew Holiday? Can we start this all over with a different dude? We're kind of at square one, but I imagine you are each GM already knows what the other one's already offered. It's going to be wildly interesting, but I think it does keep you from firing too aggressively on things that you just don't know about yet with Drew still to move.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think as far as the regular season is concerned, Drew is as valuable a player as Dame. Dame obviously raises a team ceiling offensively, but Drew is a good offensive player and he's great defensively. So I think really that's a huge domino that has yet to fall. And as a Celtics fan, I'm okay, can we ship Brogdon and Rob Williams and some firsts and get Drew because he swings things, man. I do think Dame raises a team ceiling in the playoffs when scoring is harder to come by, and that the shot making ability that he brings is something that I think really rightfully elevates Milwaukee to a title favorite. But he's not. I don't think he's much more positive impact in the regular season than Drew, and that kind of brings us to our first bet here. Let's get right into the Bucks. Let's start with talking about their win total. I will just say, as we go through the Central Division, we're also going to be running through next, I imagine the Southeast and go from there. And we'll finish up the Eastern Conference. But for this division, it's just interesting because everything I would have read when we planned to do this, a week ago in terms of the division odds are way different. So let me just give those updated ones, which is minus 380 for the Bucks to win the Central, Cavs plus 360, Pacers plus 4,500. These are off of FanDuel today, by the way. Bulls plus 4,000 and the Detroit Pistons plus 200 to 1. The interesting thing before we go on is the Pacers are plus 4,500 to win, which is longer odds than the Bulls at plus 4,000. However, the Pacers have a win total that is set one win higher than the Chicago Bulls on the season. So somebody is doing something wrong there at DraftKings and or FanDuel. But where do you start with the Milwaukee Bucks? Yeah, someone added an extra zero there. It looks
somebody.
Not that it matters because the Bulls aren't going to win the division. But
ain't touching the Bulls.
in another world, that would have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like we talked about, I think Milwaukee was a team that was, I think, 51 expected wins last year, and they had relatively good health all year. They're an old team, so even before this trade, I was going to play under. And I think their total was around 52 before this trade, but I'm not certain on that. They moved this total up. 55.5 was available in some places. And like I said, I don't think this trade for Dame makes them a better regular season team. Like this is a team that is going to have to figure out some dynamics on usage and just positionality, and that, it could get them off to a slower start. Dame might rest a bit more than Drew would have, just based on him and his injury history. I think this is a surefire under right here. I think it moved off of 55.5, but 54.5 is still pretty widely available, and I think there's value there. I make this win total around 48.5. I think they're likely a team that's right around 50 wins, but to ask them, like, they have no depth right now, really.
Let me read that off for you real quick. Let me read off the lineup for you real quick, because what we have now is Lillard at the point, and then Andre Jackson Jr. from UConn, Pat Connaughton. Goran's not there anymore, so then you go Connaughton and Beasley. Probably Jackson Jr. more of like a 2-3 is where you prefer him to be, even though he's not great shooting. Middleton and Beauchamp, and then Giannis and probably Crowder as your sort of backup 4, with Bobby Poe and Brolo as sort of your center combo there.
Yeah, I mean, that's like Portis, Lopez, Dame, Giannis. That's great, but then, I mean, right after that, it gets really not deep, and this is a team that I could see prioritizing health and longevity, because I don't think we talked about the Knicks as like a try-hard team. This, I think, is past being a try-hard team in the regular season. Like I don't think they're going to push Giannis like high 70 games. I don't think they're going to push even Dame, Middleton. There's no reason to. I think they settle right around 50 wins. I think 50 is their high point. I have a really, if 56 is going to beat me and they win 56, go ahead. That's assuming a lot. There's a lot of outs here. One is just that they're not that good. 2 is that they rest guys. 3 is that they take some time to figure it out. If we're talking about Andre Jackson Jr. in the rotation after being a second round pick, who teams will who will not really guard. Like, I think this is good. So it's a bigger play for me here.
I like that. And you think about those times last season, and even the season before, where both Middleton and Giannis were sitting, and that probably happened like 10 times. Who's the only guy you rely on? Everyone's like, well, at least we got Drew. Well, Dame's not that Dame can't carry an offense. He is a walking offense, and he's probably the second best pick and roll guard in terms of being able to shoot from far distances of all time, right? However, that's going to be awesome on a play-by-play basis. It's not going to mean that, in those random times during the regular season, you're going to get the Bucks pulling out wins that they used to. They might not be able to. I would fully agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking health into consideration with this pick. So let's move on to the team that, at least right now, is picked to come in second in that division, which is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And where do you start with them and their futures? I'll read off just a couple things actually real quick. Wins is actually listed at 50.5 right now on FanDuel, minus 122 to the over 50.5 wins for the Cavs. To win the division now would be plus 360 for them, so that's gone up a bit from what it was before the trade. And the conference is at 10-1, plus 1,000 for the Cavs to win the East entirely. I do love their pickups. I just want to say Max Strus, George Niang, Ty Jerome, even Imani Bates looks like he could be the real deal. He might be sort of the equivalent of a steal if he was a kid who had some troubles early on and then, went to a smaller school and now is coming out, looked really good in summer league. They did lose Robin Lopez, Cedi Osman, Neto, Lamar Stevens, all guys that I'm sure they're glad to have upgraded upon. I think they definitely did that. So I do like the look of this team. Do you like it enough with win total or otherwise?
Yeah, I'm kind of using my Bucks fade here. I bet actually before the news them to win the Central at plus 250, and I think it's better now. Honestly, we talked about how Dame's addition and loss of Drew shouldn't impact Milwaukee's wins a lot, but I think Cleveland's a team that was towards the top of the league in expected wins last year. There were 57 expected wins last year, and they are not getting any worse. Their core four of Mitchell, Garland, Allen, and Mobley are just getting better, and I think they aren't a team that's going to rest on their laurels, and they're going to push guys. None of those guys have a big history of resting games, and so I have them pegged for 53 wins. I'm not going to play the regular season win total just because I'm not playing those unless I have a 4 or 5 game edge. But for them to win the Central at plus 300 or better, I think is a very good way to leverage that. I also think them to get the 1 seed in the East is worth a play at plus 750. They're going to be really good and tough to score on. And Donovan Mitchell is entering his age 27 season. He was top of the league in scoring towards the top. I think he was 28.3 points per game last year. And I could see that jumping a couple, and that would put him in the conversation as well for the leader in the scoring title. And I think at 25-1, that's worth a small bet there as well, because I mean, he's still getting better. And if he just increases his points by 2, which you could project based on his age 27 entering his prime trajectory, then he's right in the middle of that scoring title.
Can I just ask though, like, does Darius Garland's leap, if there's one for him as well, worry you with the points per game for Mitchell, or almost actually help you? Because if anything, Garland continues to get better, which means his playmaking continues to get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think again at 25-1, this isn't something that I need to hit every time, and I just think there's a world in which Garland improves his assist numbers and is even, instead of picking up usage, Mitchell continues to pick up usage as far as scoring usage. I think that's worth a shot. And
we didn't even talk about Rubio, who I love. He's back. That only helps Mitchell as well. You got to pass first point guard as your backup at that point to Garland. So I'm with you. We should have just started with this team. This is our baby. Our pride and joy this season is the Indiana Pacers. I know you know that. I know we're on the same page. We started talking about it before we were even really friends. We just kind of knew each other a little bit, and then it was like, you love the Pacers, I love the Pacers, and then it's Bruce Brown everywhere. So let's get into to our baby boys and see if there's still some value as we're recording this for us to bet on the Pacers preseason.
Man, I was really hoping that not everyone else would be on this too. I think the win total opened at 36, and I was like, no. And then I think sometime in maybe June or July, I go back and I check it, and it's like 40, and I'm like, okay, like that's so much of the value that's just gone. But yeah, we talked about the Pacers team being a team that, with Halliburton being rested and Turner being rested a lot down the stretch as they position themselves for the draft, their record was worse than it looked based on the actual quality of their full roster playing every game. Because the drop off from Halliburton to whoever the next guy was to set up their minutes was so bad. And so they were quite a good team to bet on against the spread when Halliburton was playing. And so I thought that was going to be a really good look, but it seems like a lot of people caught onto that too. They're going to get more games out of him and hopefully out of Turner if he can stay healthy. The Bruce Brown
pickup. Part of that what happened to you there might have been in July. I wonder if the timing correlated with them bringing 4 dudes that are going to be playing in the rotation this season to Summer League. Between Benny Matz and Nembhard especially, and everyone saw them dominating the games where those guys played, which isn't as telling, but that might have been part of what, did us in with the value on the Pacers bets right now. But
yeah, it's hard to tell. I think it's possible that people just beat me to it, and people were fine betting early. But Carlisle's a great coach. Yeah, he has.
Where do you go now?
Yeah, so I think instead of, again, playing their wins, just playing some of the long shots on their team to get rewarded with a really good season. I have this team pegged for 42 wins this year, so just about 500 and kind of in that playoff hunt. but I do think there's upside. Let's say some of those players develop more quickly than expected. Mather, and I think their rookie Jarace Walker, he could be better than people think. And I think there's upside for that. So playing them to win 45 on FanDuel at plus 270, I think is okay. And that's a good way to play that their high end. But I would actually prefer, like, if they win 45 games after being around 30 last year and being one of the worst regular season teams in the league, I think they'll get some recognition in the awards market. So there's a lot of chances here, starting with Carlisle as coach of the year. That opened around 40-1. I would play that around 30-1. 25-1 is okay too. He's widely respected as a great coach in the year, has turned around teams in the past and had really good regular season teams in the past. There's been a lot of trade noise around Buddy Hield. One of my best friends, actually, his brother is his trainer, and it sounds like they're actually warming up to the idea of it, and they really like Buddy. And he was actually a bit unsure about where that came from. So I think just
insider info from KK.
Yeah, I got lucky. So I think him being in the starting lineup, if they keep Mathurin coming off the bench, we've talked about this before, him being 6th man of the year, I think that price with the Buddy rumors got out to like 60-1. So you can even get a better number now, which is crazy to me. Obviously, caveat, it's no good if they start him, but if they bring him off the bench, he should be a favorite. I also think Tyrese Halliburton, who is one of the up-and-coming stars in the league and my favorite guy to watch. There's a new award that De'Aaron Fox won last year, Clutch Player of the Year. He has made some big shots down the stretch in close games last year, and he's going to have the ball in his hands. So if he makes some great plays, they're going to be in a lot of close games as a league average team. So I think a 40-1 on him to win that award, I think that should be probably closer to 15 or 20-1. So again, we're just kind of playing some long shots here, hoping for if they have a good season, people are going to be like, oh, the Pacers were one of the stories of the season, and they're an up and coming team. And who was the reason for that? I think one of those three has a good chance of hitting, maybe even throw Miles Turner Defensive Player of the Year in there, but I'm going to wait on that a bit.
Yeah, I think that I like the way that you're talking about the Pacers. The couple quick things. For Carlisle, yes, he is in a prime position for Coach of the Year. If you look at the past winners, it's either somebody that jumps up by 10, usually 10 plus wins, first of all, and then it's someone which would put them right at about 45, 46, by the way. And then it's usually, or the other alternative, the alternative is that the coach is someone who improves their team from 50 to 62 wins, like a Steve Kerr with the Warriors, right? Those are really the two archetype of coach that wins this award. So I like that. Benny Matz, I actually like the fact that ESPN.com's depth charts have him as a starter, because they're fucking wrong all the time. So if they're telling you that Benny Matz is starting, that doesn't mean that you should be worried about a 6th man of the year bet with him. It's going to come down to like Bruce Brown. Like, are you going to pigeonhole him into this 6th role spot because of how, his versatility almost hurts him. It hurt him on the Nets because they were like, well, we'll bring you off the bench because you can give us literally anything. And it was like, yeah, I can give you literally anything in starter minutes too, right? And he showed that with the Nuggets by playing down the stretch. So he'll be in at the end of the game, but if he's not coming off the bench, if he is coming off the bench, that hurts the Benny Matz award. But I don't think you can sit him too long before you get him in there.
And they started Nembhard over Mather last year. So even if Bruce Brown also comes off, like, there's outs there, right? So I think good that's roster, just one to keep our eye on, because if he's off the bench in the preseason, if Matherin's off the bench, then I'm gonna bet that more.
Yep, I love it. Chicago, we don't got to spend too much time on. Sorry, Chicago Bulls, but I think the key takeaway here is stay away, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were better than expected last year, 45 expected wins to only 37 losses, but they're getting older. I have them projected around 40. There's just not much to do here. I know some sharp people that are playing the over on their regular season wins because it's like a bit, if you get it in the 30s, I can see that. They're not going to bottom out with that roster, but that's a pass. That's a pass for me.
Hard pass. 37.5 wins for them. I don't need to be sweating Bulls Raptors in February so I can get to 38 wins for the Bulls. So I'm going to stay away from that as well. By the way, I forgot to mention Jarris Walker on the Pacers, like, is the real deal. I'm pretty sure you saw him play as well in Vegas, right? And so did I. What startled me and surprised me pleasantly was his burst. Like, he's a big dude. And he moves in a flash. He got 3 steals off of guards as like a 6'7" massive big man. So I love Jarris Walker. Just another addition to a really good deep roster, man. God, I love the Pacers. Let's finish with the Pistons and just kind of briefly talk about them. I also love the Pistons. I love Cade Cunningham. I don't love their team, but I love a few of their pieces. I will say for them too, I just wanted to mention the way that their team looks different this year. I like Joe Harris and Monty Morris as pickups for them. I think those are good dudes that can at least be valuable in the game and in the locker room. And then Osser and Marcus Sasser are 2 guys that, I mean, I would have gone with Jarris Walker over Osser Thompson if I were the Pistons, but there's still a decent enough roster here to be like, let's talk about their wins at like 30.5. And let's talk about some of the players on their team.
Yeah, someone has to be bad this year, right? And I think it could be Detroit. I have them projected for 25, so right around their win totals. I do think there's like some upside here with Cade specifically. There were reports in Team USA camp when he played against that World Cup team that he was the best dude on the court, and I think that's not crazy to me. He was very good and just missed a ton of time last year. And I think they were I think he probably could have played, and they were like, dude, yeah, it's good. We'll go for the pick. But yeah, the FanDuel has some props on him to score 24 per game, which I feel like is well within his range of outcomes at plus 320, and I think that's worth a bet. I was considering them to win 30 wins at plus 200, but that moved to plus 170, and I think that's it. There's just not enough there for me. Yeah. I'm with you. I think Osser has a ton of potential, and I like those locker room guys, but I don't think that the talent's just not there. I think for me it's maybe between them, Portland, and Spurs for worst record, and the Wizards too, of course. I don't know. It depends on Cade. Cade could lift the floor, but he also could not. So I think I'm gonna play his upside. I'm not gonna mess with their wins at this point. With that, I think plus 200 was good for them to win 30, but if you can find that still, I think that's worth a shot. But it's, so
my thought here is
this year.
Definitely. But my thought with them is if that you just made me think of, if they're in the running for, top 4 or 5 teams in terms of odds to have the worst record in the league, and I don't think that they're going to have the worst record in the league, like I really, really don't, then I think that's a market that I look at, because I can go ahead and just assume that I'm getting a bit better juice on one of the other 3 or 4 bottom of the league teams. Like, I would so much rather bet on the Wizards or the Spurs even at this point. Not the Blazers as much, by the way, but either way, like, and that's another thing. If they're in that conversation, I don't think it's either of those teams. I've narrowed down my choices, and my odds sort of get a little bit more value, I think, if I hit one of those other 3. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I think the Wizards are interesting. We'll talk about them next time.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. Well, I'll get us out of here on that. I appreciate the time, dude. We're going to keep rolling, right? Next up, Southeast. Sound good?
Yeah. Just to recap some of my favorites in the Central, Bucks under 54.5, 55.5 if you can find it. We like Cleveland to win that division at better than plus 300.
Yeah.
Indiana capitalizing on the awards markets. So those are our big ones here in the Central.
Got some Benny Matz, 6th man of the year. Got some Carlisle coach of the year. And we got some Halle baby, 40-1 clutch player of the year. That's great. That's just going to be the who's the best point guard at the end of the game award forever. So happy to bet on a point guard for that one. We are going to be coming back to you, like I said, with the next one. If you would like and subscribe, that'd be really helpful. Go ahead and rate the show as well on those podcasts as you're listening to it. And until we talk to you next, happy betting.